The following episode will contain spoilers. You have been warned.
You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? Stealing is bad, boys and girls, but it's worse when the victim turns the tables in a carjacking. Amber and Scott discuss this and more after watching Locked. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
I do love a movie with a great hero in it.
Well, I'll be interested to hear your take on who is the hero in this film as we dig into this episode's movie.
And by the way, I think you know who the hero is, but continue.
Locked. This is our movie, Locked. When Eddie breaks into a luxury SUV, he steps into a deadly trap set by William, a self-proclaimed vigilante delivering his own brand of twisted justice. Locked. This was produced by Sam Raimi, who I actually like. He did other horror films like Evil Dead and Drag Me to Hell. I really like Drag Me to Hell. So, so when I saw that,
Yes, baby, Drag Me to Hell.
It actually is a really good horror movie. I wouldn't consider this a horror movie. It's not a horror movie. It's a thriller.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And more high on the drama than even the thrilling. You're not like edge of your seat kind of stuff. So it's
Eddie was on the edge of his seat.
yeah, and getting zapped as he sat on his seat. This was an interesting film. I enjoyed this.
Yeah, I did too. Very much so. So I did feel for Eddie to a point. Like, they did a good job of establishing up front that he did not prefer the criminal life, but he was going to do what he had to do. And if that meant resorting to being a criminal, he was going to do it. Now, I think there's maybe other avenues that you should more fully explore first. One of them being completely scratching off your lottery ticket before trying to take the car.
Okay, so let's backtrack here a little bit and fill folks in. So Eddie is a dad who basically has a child with this other woman who is irrelevant in the film. But we know that he is a dad who frequently lets down his young daughter, who's probably around 7 or so.
He's a recovering screw-up.
Yeah, and we meet him when he's at the mechanics, and he's trying to make payments on the repair to his car, and he is struggling, and he gives him a couple $100, and there's still a couple $100 due. So he steals someone's wallet that's sitting out at the mechanic shop. He looks around the city as he walks through. He tests some doors, car doors, to see if anything's open, to see if he can lift something. And he is struggling. And you can tell that, like, he's not a bad guy. He's not a hardened criminal, but he just doesn't know how to get his act together. And so he approaches a parking lot. He does get some lottery tickets along the way as well. And he meanders into this parking lot where this very fancy looking, beautiful SUV is parked, and he grabs the doorknob to see if it's unlocked, and it is. And that is the beginning of the journey for Eddie.
It is adorable that Eddie thought that car cost him about $100,000. That's adorable.
Yes, it was.
That car was probably
high-end.
closer to $500,000 with the modifications.
Yeah, it was a luxury SUV with a brand that I don't think really exists, unless we Googled it to know that that's a high-end car that I just don't even know the name of. But not only is it fancy, it has been modified by the owner to be soundproof, bulletproof, and just to basically turn into a prison. So once you get into this car to take something out of it or to try and steal it, you're trapped in the car, and there's literally no way that you can kick your way out of it, scream your way out of it, hit your way out of it. You're stuck. So much so that when Eddie even tries to use his gun at one point to shoot a hole in the window, it ricochets throughout the car and hits him in the leg. And he takes a crowbar, he tries to pull the door apart, and he's stuck. He cannot get out of this car until finally we hear from a caller that's calling into the car, and it's the owner who knows he's in there.
So, by the way, no, it's not a real car. It's based on the Land Rover.
Okay.
The Land Rover Defender specifically. And there were 2 made, one for interior shots and one for exterior and driving shots. And one of them is on display at the Volo Museum, wherever that is. Oh, it does say the Dulles car cost $1.3 million to design and build. So yes, $100,000. That's adorable.
Yeah, even cheap kinds of cars costs easily $50,000 these days.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel for Eddie. I do. But like, if you get that desperate,
You got to put on your big boy panties and go to school, get a job, find some sort of training program, go to trade school, do something, because not only are you failing at taking care of yourself, you have a daughter and you're trying to get in good again with her mom, and you're trying to be a good dad to her, and you're letting her down time and time and time again. And so, when you see people do that, they just need to be grabbed by the shoulders and shaken and be like, you've got to get your act together.
yeah. I thought it was interesting how Eddie was so completely indignant on the whole, in a way of like, let me out. Like, I deserve to be out, in a way, like doing everything he could to get out. And then our hero called.
Oh, okay. So we're
And-
calling Anthony Hopkins, the owner of the car, the hero.
Not
William.
all heroes wear capes.
Yeah, so very quickly to bring folks up to speed, William has had his car broken into 6 times, and Eddie marks the 7th. And the police haven't done anything. And later in the film, we learn what happened to his daughter in a neighborhood where they were held up and his daughter was killed. And he is fed up with crime. He's fed up with the police not being able to do anything. He's fed up with cancel culture. He is a
William's-
vigilante on a mission.
William was definitely a Trump voter living in California.
So when he calls in the car, he is of the mindset of, you're the 7th person who broke into my car.
Now, the one thing that we don't know is how many of the 7 total people broke into that car, or was he the first?
I think he was the first.
I think so too. But they did make it leave that somewhat vague. Like maybe he's gone down this road before.
Oh, yeah, no, I saw it as 6, and then he was like, yeah, no, I'm fighting back. I'm making all these modifications to my car. And so this happens on a Friday, and we go through Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, day after day, where Eddie is trapped in this car.
Yeah,
and the windows are tinted, so even if there's people in the parking lot, they cannot see him and they cannot hear him.
Yeah, this was not an SUV. This was a tank.
Metaphorically, yeah. It was definitely something that was meant to be a prison, and it was. And William would do things to torture Eddie, like turning on the cold and blasting the heat and playing yodeling.
Like it sounded like he had to deal with yodeling nonstop for hours and hours.
Yeah, and
So-
he didn't get water and he didn't get food.
So if you could choose, you were going to be stuck in a car with yodeling music, but they were nice enough to ask you, do you want us to go AC full blast or heat full blast? Which one do you take it? I'm pretty sure I know.
Cold.
Yeah.
Hands down. With heat, you are in a way worse situation once you start sweating, and then you can pass out. And yeah, the ramifications of coming back from heat are so much harder on the body. Where AC definitely cold, and there was a scene where he could see his breath, but you're not going to die in a car from air conditioning.
Probably not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely the heat could be a bit of an issue.
Yeah, and when Eddie shot himself by accident, when the bullet ricocheted, he passed out for a while. And at that point, William had gone into the car. He had hidden a bottle of water. He had hidden a cookie in the glove compartment. He had bandaged his wounds. And we see William then at that point playing with Eddie, trying to learn more about him, learn about his background and his criminal record, and really making a point of I'm fed up and you got into the wrong car. But not in a Liam Neeson kind of a way, but in a very calm, like, yeah, we're not going to tolerate this anymore, and we're just going to have some fun with you kind of a way.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily a punishment fitting the crime type thing, but you're paying for the sins of many.
Yeah, so many what would you do's in here if you were Eddie, who got into this car, if you were William, who had his car broken into 6 times and ignored by the police and had his daughter killed, being held up.
So some of my what would you do observations are going to just kind of be scattershot.
Okay.
They're not necessarily going to be linear at all.
Scatter away.
So the first one that I thought of was if I'm Eddie, when that car starts moving, especially at a high rate of speed.
Yeah, he's sitting still in the parking lot for a couple of days, and then he starts messing with something, and William quickly puts him in his place and makes the car start moving
Yeah, so
through the city streets at high rates of speed sometimes.
So knowing what I know about this car, I mean, this car is a tank. I mean,
Again, it's an SUV, not really a tank, but it's heavy duty.
I mean, it's like reinforced steel on the. I mean, this is like.
Yeah, you can crush a guy with it, not dent your bumper.
Yeah, you would wreck other cars. Like you turn other cars in a tin can and you barely have a scratch. I would get onto the floor in the back seat.
Okay.
Not the far rear.
Yeah, I understand.
But the actual back seat, because for one, I think it's highly unlikely he would have rigged that area with zappers.
Yeah.
That would have been more difficult. 2, knowing the state of that, you're essentially going to pin yourself in to the point that even if you were to crash, you're not going to move enough yourself to probably cause any real issues.
Oh, that's a good idea.
You're basically immobilizing yourself. And plus, do you really want to look?
Yeah, no, that's an interesting take. I would love to know a doctor's take on how scientifically valid that is. But just in our chit chat here, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
And the zappers are basically William put things in the seats where he can electrocute Eddie. Say the wrong thing, cuss, say something he didn't like, zap, zap, zap. Zappity, zap, zap, zap.
See, it's funny. I've thought about stuff like that. Like if I was in a plane that was going down, what would I do? Where would I go? If I could, I know exactly what I would do. I'd go into the bathroom, in the back, in the rear. Tight, confined space. Can't really be jostled around too much.
Is the mirror in there real mirror, though? Real glass? That could really mess you up, I believe.
That's fine. You know what? I'm okay with getting messed up if I'm in a plane going down where generally everyone dies. I'm okay with getting a little messed up. I'm just gonna.
Well, that can mess you up a lot. A mirror shattering could puncture you, and you bleed internally. It could blind you. It could cut off
I'm not going to be
your
standing.
scalp.
I'm basically going to go fetal on the ground, and again pin myself in so that if there's a crash, I'm not saying it's not going to hurt. I'm not saying it's not going to cause some damage, but the goal at that point is avoid death. Now, I'm not even saying that would avoid death.
Yeah.
But
If
without,
you're a doctor, let us know how valid these
Yeah.
these ideas that Scott has are. They sounded interesting, but I'd like to know how your body would react to something like that.
Yeah. So, 2, if I'm William, what the hell am I doing making the fuse box even remotely accessible in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, at one point, Eddie does something to comply with something William asked, and William rewards him with a cookie, and it's in the glove compartment, and the glove compartment opens to provide access to the cookie, and in doing so, Eddie sees some wiring that lights up that's potentially accessible for him to start messing with the controls of the car and perhaps to get out.
So, have you ever had to deal with fuses in a car?
Not really.
So, I have. They're difficult enough to get out as is. So, if I'm William, I'm doing one of 2 things here. either one, I'm super gluing in every relevant fuse, which is probably most of them given the type of car it is, so that, like, again, even not super glued, those things can be real pain in the ass to take out. You super glue them, there's just no way you're going to get them out, especially if you're watching them and can zap and do whatever. Like,
Yeah.
that toe is never getting it out.
And let's be clear, because we didn't mention this specific earlier, there's cameras all throughout the car. So William is watching what Eddie is doing at all times.
Alternately, he could just put like a steel lockbox type thing on it, just with a lock. Just flip it over, padlock.
I think that's a good idea.
I mean, like, you have gone to so much trouble here to make this vehicle that basically is impenetrable from the inside, and you leave the wiring exposed. You leave the fuse box. No.
Yeah, no, that's a good observation on your part, and I definitely would agree with the lockbox. And what we learn about William is he's actually a doctor, and I think he might deliver babies for his doctoring job based on a call that we heard in the background. I'm not quite sure. And he is watching the car and Eddie from a nearby apartment building, as well as the cameras.
Yeah.
And we see throughout the film when the car ultimately starts being moved and driven electronically. Thank you, Elon, for the promoting the concept of self-driving cars. But William drives into an alley where we see two guys kicking and mugging a guy and beating him up, and wants to show Eddie what crime is like in the city and how people act and treat each other. And William drives the car, long story short, into both of these people and kills them.
Yeah.
The bad guys, not the guy being kicked.
Yeah, Eddie, I mean, honestly, I feel like Eddie probably had a pretty good idea that that's the way it was, given his background. But yeah, no, he went full on vigilante. Now, again, I think both of those guys absolutely deserved it. If you've got a guy down and you're just beating the crap out of him, and I mean, we don't know why, but like, I can tell you there was enough beating the crap out of that guy had been more than disabled at that point. And if there was ever a self-defense argument in there, you long since went past it. Yeah, I did kind of like the thing at the end after he crushed the guy against the gate a bit and just basically probably wrecked his rib cage and like completely internally busted him up. He's like, if he stands up, I'll let you go. But he's got to stand all the way up.
Yeah.
And he's like, come on, come on, come on. And as soon as he gets like halfway up, punches the car and just explodes his head like a melon.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely that, I think, was the thriller part of our
Yeah.
movie, of that anxiety of Eddie having some hope there for a moment. Like, maybe this is going to end. Maybe this isn't it going to end. And
Like,
William wasn't done having his good time.
yeah, you know what? If I'm William, I mean, I think he said it was colon cancer, right?
Yeah.
4 months.
Yeah.
Dude's got 4 months to live. He has had his life turned upside down by crime.
Yeah.
And
I don't think they even had to mock up any of those scenes in downtown Los Angeles. That's just how downtown Los Angeles looks in many areas.
Unfortunately. I give him a round of applause. It was wonderful. He was doing this city a service. I would have liked to have seen a slightly more hardened criminal other than Eddie in the car, but is what it is. But all the while he had to have some idea that all of this was his end game. Like, he wasn't just going to trap somebody. Like, he was always going to get in that car. Like, William was always going to get in that car, because why else would he have a bar, a U-shaped bar,
right,
put where it was underneath the seat, if it weren't for literally making someone zip tie themselves to it?
Yeah, after 5 days, basically, William shows up and has Eddie zip tie himself to this metal loop that's under the passenger seat and loads in a bag of, we're not really sure, maybe implements of torture.
Yeah, he was going to have fun.
And this was never going to end with Eddie being released. So I agree that William definitely had this planned out. And it makes me think, what would I do if I was William? William had been repeatedly targeted and had his sense of privacy and safety and security violated with multiple break-ins with his car, and also suffering the ultimate loss with his daughter being killed in front of him when they were both held up. And he was very calm. Like, he wasn't, like I mentioned earlier, the Liam Neeson level of intensity, but he was a man who had been broken and was disappointed in our justice system, realizing that it wasn't worth turning Eddie into the cops. Even when Eddie said, I'll confess, turn me into the cops, it's fine. He was like, no, they'll just let you go.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to happen. And when you start becoming disillusioned, the decisions you make are not ones that really safeguard a future, because your future is not one that you're fighting for.
Yeah, I mean, again, colon cancer, 4 months to live. He's like, if he's going to go out, he's going to go out Thelma and Louise style.
So if I was Eddie and I was trapped in this car, it was interesting to see how, after Eddie realized that there was no way a window was going to be broken, that a panel from the door wasn't going to come out and let him out, when he really realized he was stuck and he was starving and he was thirsty, even though it was raining and he could see the rain on the sunroof of the vehicle all around him, and had no water. What would you do? So there comes a moment where he is contemplating drinking his own urine because he's been peeing in the water bottle he had. And initially he can't do it. And then as the movie progresses and he gets a little bit more desperate, we ultimately see him do that. And you were talking about the filtration and the sanitary level of that. What was that?
I mean, the truth is you can do that. And it actually does generally work to help hydrate you back. Now, if you're in that situation, if you're kind of stuck in that garbage out, garbage in loop, if you will, I mean, eventually you're going to run out of piss, because it's not like you're going to piss out everything that you put back in.
Especially if you're sweating.
Yeah, because you're obviously dehydrated to a massive point.
Yeah.
At that point. But, I mean, if you're asking, would I drink my own piss? Yes, I would plug my nose, which luckily I don't have a very good sense of taste anyway. I'd plug my nose and chug it, because, I mean, what else are you going to do? I mean, dehydration will kill you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when you said at the beginning about the hero being William, our vigilante, and on one hand, I don't want to condone anyone whose ultimate goal is to kill someone. That said, I can empathize with William's character of being pushed and pushed and pushed, and realizing we live in a society where there are little to no consequences for things. And that is somewhat symptomatic of our shift in culture over the decades. Where, remember, you know, back in our parents' days or grandparents, that if you were a kid and you did something, there were consequences. And in today's society, if you do something wrong, you're coddled, you're celebrated for your individuality and your uniqueness. So many parents don't deliver consequences to their children.
Well, you know me, my thoughts on consequences.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in consequences.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to let people suffer consequences, whether that's of their own making or consequences that you help deliver. If someone doesn't experience the discomfort, the fear, the awkwardness, just all of the levels of negativity that come with living with your consequences for doing the wrong thing, making the wrong decision, you're bound to keep doing it.
Yeah,
because there weren't consequences.
And to put it into modern terms, if you're going to fuck around, you need to find out.
Yeah, and this is actually was part of a audiobook I was listening to recently, and it was actually talking about consequences, that you can't always save people from themselves. Sometimes, whether it's a parent or adult child or a sibling or whomever, that you can't always save them, because if you do that, number one, you're not teaching them life skills, and they are never experiencing consequences. So you're going to spend your whole life saving them because they never know the discomfort of consequences.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, you do have to let people
fail. You have to let people fail, and sometimes fail painfully.
Yes. No, I mean, I'm speaking as a guy who has on a few occasions failed very painfully. I understand that, and it's a necessary life lesson. And if you don't ever learn that, and you learn that you're always going to get bailed out in some way, shape, or form, then you start to live your life that way. And that's not a good way to live your life, in my opinion.
No, I agree, because either, I lost this money, or this other thing went wrong, but so-and-so bailed me out, or they helped me out of it, or they handled it, or whatever it is. Then next time that situation comes up, are you going to be like, oh, no, not going to touch that, not going to do that? Or you're going to be like, no, it'll be okay. And if it isn't, so-and-so will help me. So, yeah, consequences are huge. And that was a very big undertone of this film, is William's frustration living in a society where consequences are kind of dwindling and dying away as a cultural norm.
Well, yeah, I mean, and this whole thing was about consequences. If you want to say fuck, you're going to get zapped. You want to say fuck 3 times, they're going to zap you 3 times.
Yeah, and if you apologize for it and you are remorseful and you say, I'm not going to do this, then you get the heat turned off, or you get a cookie or whatever. That you need to understand functioning in a society and the give and take of being with others, that it's not always about you and your needs.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Eddie. Like, if I'm Eddie, as soon as I realize I can't get out, like, I truly, like, I have to think, okay, if I can't break a window, I can't do all, like, this guy's done something. He's got me. The first time that call rings, I'm answering it, and I'm listening to everything he has to say. Everything. Because I know I'm not in control. And I don't want to be at the mercy of the person who is. So I'm just going to play nice. And I'm going to do whatever you want. All you want is being out of that car, and telling the guy fuck you is not going to get you out of that car.
Yeah, cussing at whoever is negatively impacting you is never going to get you the positive outcome you think it will.
Yeah, no, you want to get your rage out, that's fine. You gave him an opportunity to feel more justified in getting his out.
Yeah. So what would I do? Well, number one, I would never try the door handle of someone's car. And I know that's definitely a thing that criminals do. I think this is just a good reminder to be a good person, be a good citizen, and be a part of communities and societies. That if everything is about you and your needs and your outcomes, we have a situation like Eddie and William.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Nothing to add. What would I do? I would hit the stop button on the podcast because we've gone too long.
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release 2 to 3 episodes weekly, so we'll have new content regularly. Until next time.